I'm sure you all can think of at least one person that you admire for being courageous. For example, someone who quit their office job and started their own business and became a successful entrepreneur. Or maybe someone who spontaneously took out all their savings and spontaneously bought a plane ticket and started a solo journey around the world. I can also give you some examples that are more down to earth. For example, this person that always starts conversations with strangers first and casually makes friends everywhere. Or someone who adamantly defends their point of view and is not afraid of defending their opinion. Or someone who can publicly admit that they were wrong. That's an extreme sport, right? So when you think about these people, you may start to feel a little bit jealous. You start to feel intimidated, and in your subconsciousness, there appears an idealized image of this person. They seem so bold, so accomplished, so confident, and yet so calm about everything. And then there's you. You are convinced that you simply lack the confidence, and all these brave people somehow do not. You wish you were like them. You wish you had as much courage as they do. But you assume that you simply don't have it. But what is courage, really? I've been asking myself this question many times, and I've been observing different attitudes people have towards courage. I've noticed that many people desperately want to know how some people are not afraid of making some brave decisions. What is the secret, right? How do these people get rid of the fear they feel when making these brave decisions? Well, this is exactly where the problem lies. And what if I told you that this attitude is misleading? What if I told you that these people do not really know how to get rid of the fear either? Because they don't have to. They just act despite it. Now, my point is that this idealistic perception of courage prevalent in today's society is a myth. Striving to achieve it will not lead you to the place you want to be in. The true secret is that you need to learn to acknowledge your emotions and make steps forward anyway. So now let me tell you why this new attitude will be beneficial for you and why is it worth it to rethink your perception of courage. Firstly, it enables you to change your behavior at any time you decide to. You don't need any longer to search for methods of combating fear and then finding yourself stressed about it even more and falling into a vicious circle of being stressed about being stressed and feeling afraid of being afraid. You don't need to do it any longer. If you realize that you can change your behavior, you will be able to influence the perception of yourself that you have. So how to do it? You can, when you feel afraid, when you don't feel courageous enough, you can, in your mind, shrug your shoulders. Just like that. You can learn how to shrug your shoulders mentally in your head when you don't feel courageous enough. Secondly, realizing that everyone experiences fear would be a relief for you. You would understand that you are not any worse than other people. You'll realize that you experience all the same emotions as they do, so you're capable of making similar decisions, because why not? And I know it is easier said than done, but all these people that you admire have been there as well. And to the first time you try a new attitude, it will be difficult, it may be not intuitive at all. But the 10th time you try it, it will just get easier. And you will get used to the fact that some kind of new challenges are always accompanied with nervousness. And finally, implementing this new behavior would give you a lot of power in your hands. And this power, you will be able to use it in your favor. The perception of yourself that you have in your brain, you will be also able to change it. So let me give you an example. For example, you may have been considering yourself as a person who's always shy and intimidated around new people. You may have been convinced that this is the truth and you cannot change it. But in reality, when you meet someone for the first time, they have no idea what you think of yourself. So if you don't show them by your behavior that you do not consider yourself as a particularly courageous person, they'll never know. So you might as well just behave as if you already consider yourself as a brave person. Besides that, taking brave actions is not restricted for courageous people. And I'm sure you all know this, but do you always keep this in mind? I believe we should always remember about it. So I wanted to also stress one thing. I talked about my perception, my proposition of the new attitude towards courage, but all ways are fine if they fit you. You may prefer to combat stress, practice stress management, reminding yourself that you are already courageous enough. You can try to cope with lack of courage by any way you want. But my proposition, which in my view is the most effective, is learning, taking steps forward. Anyway, I would also like to talk about one thing. At the beginning, I talked about different types of people that you can admire for being courageous. And I'm sure you all had different associations in your head and you thought about different decisions you personally are afraid to make. But I would like you to think whether they are actually worth the threat you feel towards them. If you think about them, if you put them under perspective at the end of the day, do they really deserve the threat we give them? I believe that the situations that we experience every day shouldn't be a reason for such a panic that we feel. We can be afraid of even the most basic things like making phone calls or some great deals like having job interviews, taking important tests, etc. Yes, they are important moments. Yes, they provoke stress. And certainly, all the emotions that you feel are necessary. They need to be accepted, they cannot be ignored, they need to be felt. They are a necessary component of your life. But aren't there other situations in life that are objectively more dangerous, more unpredictable, and more difficult to deal with? Idealistic courage is a myth, and associating making great decisions with being inherently courageous is a trap. Some kind of nervousness will always accompany taking up new challenges. So if you find yourself feeling stuck, unsatisfied with how you behave and how it influences your life decisions, you can change your attitude. You can rethink your perception of courage. You can learn to shrug your shoulders when you don't feel courageous enough. This will enable you to change the perception of yourself that you have in your brain and the way you are perceived by others. But for some people, you may already be the most courageous person they have ever met. Who knows? Thank you.